reason why they're called knockouts because they have so many flowers and so many blooms, and they bloom all the way to the fall. My name is Armand Zambrano, and I'm a Long Branch resident all my life, and I'm also on the Board of Education in Long Branch. I was a retired teacher from, Middletown Township for about 34 years. Over here, you have more roses. Those are the climbing roses. The rhododendrons had their blooms last week, but with the rain that we had on Monday, everything seemed to fall off. And I'm glad that I was born and raised in Long Branch. I'm glad I came from a generation that really respected everyone around and the soil that you walk on and the food that you have at the table. Really, it takes work to grow that food, especially the vegetables for a family. And you have to realize back then, the Italian families had 6 or 8 children, and their food came from the garden. And whether they grew the vegetables and fruit in the summertime, they canned it for the wintertime. So they had the same food that they were getting in August and September, now in masonry jars on the table in January, February, and March. It's like the peppers that would be in the jars. Some people had peach trees, and they would put those peaches in the jars. Tomato sauce was another one. If you're having macaroni, well, you're not going to get fresh tomatoes in the middle of January, but you have those tomatoes that you grew in July and August, made your tomato sauce, and they looked out for their family and for everyone. Well, it starts off where my grandmother and grandfather lived on Overton Place in Winter Street, which is only 2 blocks away. When they purchased that house, my grandfather also purchased this lot that we're standing on, about 1920. He came over from Italy in 1900. He was only 20 years old at that time. He worked the land, which is about maybe 50 by 100 feet behind us, with tomatoes and peppers. He had about 3,000 pepper plants and about 200 tomatoes, and he sold them at the store, which was on Winter Street. I think this is the one that's been here, 100 years, from 1920, planted with peppers and tomatoes, just like I'm planting in the back that I'll show you later. Probably the oldest one I would think, because living in Long Branch, as long as I've been, there's plots and stuff that had, gardens on there where you don't see anymore, or even plots that had gardens, which they built houses, next to the house that had the plot. Probably over 100. I get really must say, between the vegetables, the flowers, different, probably a minimum of 100 different species. Well, I guess the main thing, if you're planting something, a vegetable or a tomato, you have to care for it. Just like your friends, if your friends are in need, you help them out. The plant's only looking for you for the help. So you got to take care of it, you got to water it, you got to nurture it, and that's a lesson in life. You have friends, but you have to care for your friends, just like you care for the plants.